Welcome back to the Drama Free Healthy Living podcast, and I'm your host, Jess Cording. And I am so glad that you are joining me today. We're going to do a solo episode today on a topic that is actually one of my favorite things to talk about. So, as we're recording this, I came back earlier this week from uh, the Food and Nutrition Conference and Expo, aka FNCE, which is kind of like the Super Bowl for dietetics, we'll say, that takes place every year. And this year I was presenting on nutrition for restful sleep. And as I was packing my suitcase and throwing in like my resistance bands and my gliding discs and all my supplements, I was just thinking about how, it's so funny because, I've been in the wellness world for almost 15 years. I've been an RD for over a decade, health coach close to that. I've been a Pilates certified Pilates instructor for over 5 years or almost 5 years. And I barely ever do fitness related content on here of me talking to you guys, even though it is a huge part of my life and a really big part of what I work on with my clients too. So I thought it'd be fun today to speak for a little while about a topic I love, which is travel friendly workouts. So yeah, this is something I've had a lot of practice with, something I've worked with my clients for a long time on. And I just wanted to share a few tips that maybe you'll find useful if you're doing some travel anytime soon. Or maybe you want to save this episode and come back to it when you are doing some travel a little further out in the future. I supported clients for a long time in the corporate wellness world who were traveling a lot for trade shows and client events. And for a time, I myself was traveling at least once a month for different events. And I go through phases where I travel more and I travel less. And I've been in a season more recently. I've been traveling a little bit more and kind of looking ahead to that as we look into, as I'm recording this, into the year ahead. And so it's definitely been on my mind. But just a few of my favorite tips and tools for uh, making exercise part of your routine, even if you're on the road. So, okay, I just want to share that the mindset piece is really important here. Something I find very often is that people get stuck in an all or nothing mindset. They feel that if they can't do the perfect version of their fitness routine or nutrition routine, that it's not worth doing at all. And sometimes travel is a time when, we're just out of our routine. And in some ways it's kind of the beauty of travel. It's an opportunity to have new experiences. But when it comes to fitness, it's important to be flexible and adaptable. So for example, like I love strength training. This is something I got into in my late 20s. I remember I remember going for, I don't know, checkup at the doctor, and they started talking to me about like osteoporosis and like avoiding issues with bone health. And that was when I started to be more intentional about incorporating weights and resistance training of different types into my routine. Because up until then, it was really, and so many women, my generation and older have kind of fallen into that trap of like too much cardio. But I digress. Long story short, I love strength training. I love lifting weights, even before it was cool. And but when I'm traveling, I'm not gonna bring like heavy dumbbells in my suitcase. That's just not gonna happen. And sometimes, there's access to a gym, sometimes there's not. And I'll be honest, I really love working out at home, just in the privacy of my own space. I'm not one who is really enthusiastic about going to a hotel gym and like touching all the equipment and being around strangers. Like it's not my favorite thing. Like, yeah, I'll do it once in a while, but I prefer to work out in the comfort of my own home, my own hotel room or Airbnb or wherever I might be traveling, guest room in someone's house. So for me, if I want to maintain that strength training routine, I'll be looking at body weight exercises, which I'll share with you in a minute what that is. I'll be packing really lightweight equipment. Like I love resistance bands, loops. I love gliding discs. You can bring a jump rope, which is not for strength training, but I guess if it's doubling as resistance band, depending on the material, could be. So that's one way of being flexible. Or if you're somebody who is used to um, running, on the treadmill in a gym, maybe you look at running, outdoors at your destination or the place that you're traveling to. But it's again, it doesn't have to be structured workouts either. That is another trap that sometimes we fall into, just thinking that things have to be structured for them to count. But, if we are traveling and, we're doing a lot of sightseeing, we're on our feet, we're walking around, That can also be contributing to movement. So I just like to say that when you're traveling, you're out of your routine, any movement is good. It doesn't have to look the same as it looks when you're in your day-to-day life. So I just want to take that off your plate. So other things to keep in mind. I mentioned body weight works out, body weight exercises. So I said I would get to that. Again, like you can do a great workout with no equipment. Obviously, things like walking and running and hiking are all great ways of getting cardiovascular movement with no equipment. But you can, if you're doing, we're talking about strength, things like squats, lunges, push-ups, planks, burpees. Those are all examples of exercises you can do to build strength that require zero equipment. So you don't even have to bring any extra crap in your suitcase. And if you're in a time crunch, I think that it's and this sometimes I see come up with people who get really hung up on like having to walk X many minutes a day or get X many steps in a day for it to feel meaningful. But this if you're short on time, like maybe you're at a family gathering, you're at an occasion like a convention, a conference, some kind of business thing, a training where there's just not much time. This is a great time to use really time efficient types of workouts like HIIT workouts, Tabata, where you're doing these short, intense intervals to get your heart rate up and get that effect, but you don't have to be stressing about walking for an hour or logging 5 miles or something, more structured. So just wanted to share that too. It doesn't have to be the same duration. You can be flexible in that way by changing up the type of movement you do to get the desired effect. I also, of course, I'm a big fan of the lightweight equipment too. I mentioned I love my resistance bands. So this I will use for things like weights, not weights, for like arm workouts. Like if I'm doing like curls and thing or like presses. A jump rope is great if you like that for cardio. I love gliding discs for doing different types of core movements, or they're great for incorporating into things like leg workouts, or they're really great for also mimicking some of the effects of Pilates reformer equipment too. So they're really versatile and they take up so little space. And of course, I love resistance loops. There's like a little tiny circle, and you can use that. You can put it around your thighs to do different leg exercises. You can use it. Sometimes you can put it like on your feet and incorporate that into core workouts. You can be putting it around your arms or your holding your palms and use that for things like rowing, incorporating that into plank exercises or other or upper body exercises. So there's a lot you can do with those. If you have space, you could bring a foldable yoga mat. I am that person. I almost I can't I don't think I've checked a bag on purpose since I don't know, maybe 2015. I'm not a person who likes to check luggage. I'm definitely like team carry-on. I just try to shove as much as I can in there. So there's usually no room for a fold-up yoga mat, no matter how small they say it can be. But I do have one, and if I was ever intending to check a bag, I would probably bring it. But if you don't bring a fold-up yoga mat, towels, sheets, carpet, those are all things you can do to just put a little cushioning under you. I learned the hard way if you're going to do something like Pilates, where you're maybe on your tailbone or on your back, like you should have some kind of cushioning to avoid any discomfort. And obviously you want to always be safe and avoid like any slipping and falling, but a fold-up yoga mat is an option, but you don't have to bring it. There are other things that you can use. So, okay, on the topic of Pilates, because it would be crazy for me, a Pilates instructor, to not talk about Pilates on the go. But actually, one of the things that really drew me to Pilates, aside from the therapeutic aspect of it, which was how I was introduced to it, I think I first tried it in college, and then I came back to it in my mid 20s when I was healing from an injury that had affected both of my arms. And the physical therapist was like, well, you should build up core strength because that'll help you avoid injury in the future. And I was just in love from like day one. I was like, this makes so much sense. Um, but something I really love about Pilates and why I love teaching it, and this is why I focus mostly on mat Pilates as opposed to the reformer Pilates that's having a moment right now. The reformer stuff is great. It's fun. It can feel cool to master a machine like that. But I love the mat Pilates because you just need yourself and a mat, and you can do it anywhere. Um, it's so accessible in that way, and it's so easy to modify. So Pilates, if you're not familiar, it's really focusing on core stability, uh, improving our posture, improving flexibility. Some of my favorite types of exercises, and you can really have a full body workout with Pilates, but things like incorporating the Pilates 100 for a little cardio, doing roll-ups, the series of 5, which is a series of abdominal exercises for core strength. I love all the different, like the side lying, like leg series and all the different leg exercises. You can do bridges, which are also working your glutes, everywhere. You can touch everything. So I love it because it's just great too if you are needing to kind of stretch out and just also help improve our balance. One of the uh, you know, top causes of injury and death, especially as we get older, is falls and fractures. And so when we have core strength, we're better able to catch ourselves and avoid falling and injuring ourselves. So balance is great, and just when we're kind of getting the blood flowing, we're moving around, supporting mobility, that's also helping with travel related stiffness that can come up too. So it's really good if you are prone to feeling really uncomfortable after like being on a plane or a train for a while. So I love Pilates for travel. All right, so I want to touch on just some two other things. On that note, stretching and mobility, so important. Like if you've been on a flight for a long flight or a long car ride or bus ride, stretching is essential for relieving tension. Like the older I get, the more this matters. So if you're on the younger side and you're listening to this, don't start now. Just start stretching. It's amazing. And like I think just like easy stretches. I think some of the key areas that get really tense or tight when we're traveling are things like our back, our neck, our hamstrings, sometimes the shoulders. So these are all good things to be looking at how we can stretch, improve mobility, get the blood flowing. One of my favorite like morning mobility routines would be like doing a little qigong or even if you just want to do a few just stretches like runner's lunge or stretching your one arm at a time over your head. If you're watching this the video, like what is she doing? But I'm just mimicking like or I'm showing just different movements. Anything like stretches to open your shoulders, you can bend forward to stretch your hamstrings, anywhere you need it. Just do a little waking up of the body. And I think something else that comes up sometimes is if you have like a long layover, say, like in an airport, for example, if you either one of the things I love most about my husband is he is like me in that he likes to get to the airport really early. Um, a long time ago, I was in a relationship with someone who preferred to rush to the airport, like not have to be there like at all. They wanted to just get there like as the plane was leaving. My anxiety could not handle that. Like I don't get anxious about the plane ride. I get anxious about every moment leading up to that. And so I'm that person, like I love to get to the airport. Like I would rather get there, a few hours early than be like risking being a little late. That's just my personality. I don't know if you can relate or not, but so I'm no stranger to having time to kill in a place like that. So, some things that you can do to stay active, and I think it's about choosing your moments, right? Like if you are exhausted, like maybe you didn't sleep well the night before because you were really anxious about your trip, that's really common. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, do laps. Like actually, it might help you stay awake a little bit. Like I'm that person when I'm tired. Sometimes I feel like I need to keep moving so I don't fall asleep. Like I think that's very shark-like, I've been told, but that said, if it's like middle of your day, you've just got a while, you haven't, maybe you had to leave early, you really haven't gotten to be active at all during your day. Because, like, yeah, you're going to see those people on social media that will tell you, like, on a travel day, you must get 10,000 steps before you go to the airport and you must do your workout. And yes, I love doing my workout before I go to the airport or wherever I'm traveling before a car ride. Like, it feels good to do that. But real life, it's not always going to happen, right? So, I think you have to decide if it will serve you to be focusing on being active in the, during a long layover, we'll say, or at the airport if you have a while. But, just things like kind of walking around, like I love to find my gate and then kind of explore and just see what's around. Like if I have time to buy food, like I kind of look at what the options are. Um, some people prefer to do things like um, just take a walk around and like maybe listening to something on headphones. It's so interesting to me. Like, I think from just living in New York City for so long and just having it drilled into me that I had to be alert and aware of my surroundings at all times, I never really got in the habit of walking around with headphones on. Once in a while, if I'm out for a walk and it's an area that's familiar, like I will, but I never got into the habit of like being in um, like a space with lots of other people and where I felt like I needed to be alert or listening for announcements, where I felt comfortable like tuning out everything around me with headphones. But I know people that they find that that is so helpful for their anxiety to be listening to something while they're in an airport or on a plane or at a terminal of some kind. So you do you. But if you're someone that likes to listen to like audiobooks or podcasts and it's helpful to like walk around while you do that, highly encourage it. Um, I also, if you are taking a phone call, you can pace while you're on the phone. That's another way, just get in a little movement. So, and on a flight, I would say get up, if not every hour, every few hours, if it's a long flight, just to avoid blood clots. And again, to just kind of avoid like building up discomfort. That's really important. It's less about being active, more about just comfort and safety. So yeah, stretches, those are great. I like I'm not telling you to like go in a corner and do like an hour-long yoga class and like headstands like on the floor of like, JFK or whatever, but like or your whatever airport you like to fly out of or find yourself flying out of. I don't know anyone who actually loves flying out of JFK. Um, but just doing some stretches or just light movement if you need to. I think that can be great for just being a little active, getting the wiggles out if you have anxiety pre-flight. Just some ideas. And just to, but all of this to say, like, I know I've just shared some tips with you for incorporating movement into your routine, and the stuff that I've shared with you, like, these are things that you can do in a hotel room, in a guest room, an Airbnb. If you're sharing a room with someone else, I would say just give them a heads up that you're going to be moving. These are things you could also, depending on what you choose to do, a lot of this you could do outside in a local park, or obviously if you stay in a hotel and there's a gym there, that can be a great resource. So I would say, as you're planning your trip, take stock of what your usual movement routine is that feels good to you, and think about how to bring some of that into your travel experience. But knowing that, travel schedules can be unpredictable. So maybe you want to be focusing on having some shorter, more focused workouts. If you're used to doing like an hour-long workout, but that's just not going to work with your schedule, like it is, you're still going to get something with 10 to 20 minutes. So don't feel like you have to be doing like a huge long workout for it to matter. Um, so, and if you're out and about, things like sightseeing, walking or biking when you can, taking the stairs, versus elevators when that makes sense, taking guided walking tours or all of that stuff. Also, all great ways to be active. So that's just some tips for staying moving when you're traveling. And just to close the loop, nutrition also matters. I always talk about these guys together with my clients because they really do help. One supports the other, right? So hydration and nutrition are great for supporting energy when you're traveling. So, obviously like water is great for hydration. But I find that when we travel, especially if we're traveling by air, we're a little more prone to dehydration. So I will encourage bringing like electrolyte supplements that you can add to a bottle of water. Um, Snacks are convenient. So I'll often bring like a couple protein bars, maybe some protein powder, some nuts. You can bring things like dried fruit, if you or whole fruit if you have space. Um, Sometimes I brought like little squeeze packs of nut butter, things like that. You can bring, um, like one of my favorite travel snacks is cherry tomatoes for the day of because they're like nice little way to hydrate and you don't have to keep them cold or anything like that. So those are just a few ideas. There's so much more where that came from. And I have a whole post on my blog of like carry-on friendly snacks. I love all like the crispy bean snacks and all that stuff. So it's a lot to choose from. Um, and if there are things that you really enjoy having as part of your day-to-day routine, see if you can find single serving packets or that fit well into your carry-on. So for example, like I love drinking an iced matcha in the morning. And I mentioned that I like to work out at home. So often I will make myself an iced matcha to enjoy while I do that. So, when I travel, I'll bring like single serving packets, and creatine is a supplement that I use as part of my own fitness routine. So I will also bring single serving packets of that with me. So that's something that I'll put I'll put like the matcha powder and the creatine powder in just a cold bottle of water and like shake it up. And it's not the same as the experience I have at home, but it's still pretty damn satisfying. And it, checks the boxes I want it to. And sometimes if I'm good, like I enjoy working out in the morning. That's kind of what feels good in my body. Again, there will be days where we have to be flexible, and that's totally fine. But I find that, what I make an effort to do when I'm traveling, because it's in this season of my life, what feels good to me. And things can change over time, but I enjoy that morning movement. So I'll do my, my matcha with my creatine powder. If I know that my first meal is not going to happen for a little while, I'll add some collagen powder in there. So that way I'm at least giving my muscles some protein to work with, to help with recovery. So that's just an example, just a few examples of what that might look like. And then, of course, we can't talk about fitness without talking about the importance of sleep and recovery. So, sleep, oh my gosh, this is so important, especially when we're traveling. And I know it can be hard if we're traveling across time zones and we've got a lot going on. Maybe we're overstimulated, so it might feel harder to sleep. But this is where you want to be, supporting your recovery and your energy levels by doing what you can to promote restful sleep. So, that can look like things like keeping the room really as dark as possible. like, I'm always known for like putting like stuff in front of the clock so I can't see it. If you're lucky enough to have like blackout curtains, or if not, I love traveling with an eye mask just as a backup. Earplugs, magical for helping with sleep. If you have, I know I will always say don't keep the phone in your bed, but again, I know that's not always possible. But if you can put it on the other side of the room, that is great. I love white noise machines, or a white noise app that you can leave going all night. So maybe you put your phone on the other side of the room and you let the white noise machine play on that. That can be a really great tool. And then just things like giving yourself a little like break from screen time about 30 minutes before bed, turn the lights down low if you can, do some deep breathing exercises or meditation or a warm shower, all things to help yourself wind down at night. And one of my other favorite tools, as you've heard me say, I'm sure a million times, but journaling, like that end of day brain dump, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, you've got the to-do list brain going, or the anxiety loop, that can be really helpful for allowing yourself to drift off and relax. So, yeah, the sleep matters too. So again, these are just a few things just to, give you a few tips to help you be consistent with a movement routine that supports your goals, even if you're out of your day-to-day life. You're traveling, you're on the road, whatever, whether it's for business, for pleasure, family stuff. Um, I hope that you found this episode helpful, and I would love to hear what you thought. So if you want, please take a screenshot of yourself listening. Tag me at Jess Cording on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you thought about this episode. And if you know someone who could use this, one of the best ways to support this podcast is to share it. So, share it with a friend or family member who would really get something out of this. And please consider leaving me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. They really do matter and help me to continue to bring you great content. So as always, guys, it is so lovely to be here with you. I appreciate your time and your energy. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.